Have two sedans on this year's Car and Driver 10 Best. The Mazda 3 and the Mazda 6 combine the performance you want with the efficiency that you need. Mike and Mike here on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Herm Edwards, George Sedano in for the guys, and we're joined in studio now here giving us his Subway Fresh take. Urban Meyer, head coach of Ohio State, joining us now. All right, Herm, give it to him. Ask him the question about the Big Ten you've been asking today.
Coach, Big Ten, 14 teams. I can't do the math on that one, Coach. We got that one figured out yet?
The Big Ten, 14 teams.
Yeah.
There's also, you got the Big 12, you got the...
I know, with 11 teams.
All I'll say is tradition, man. That's the way it is.
Is that the
Tradition.
Well, you answered the question then. Ask me this question. You've been in both conferences, SEC and the Big Ten, correct?
And the MAC and the West.
Let's just go with the SEC and the Big Ten. Is there the difference to you?
Sure there is. I think the SEC has proven its value and the quality from top to bottom for the last several years. I think the gap is closing. I think there's a bunch of people working. We're one of them, working extremely hard to fill our roster with some of the I don't want to call it SEC talent, but there's great talent. What it is, there's great talent up north. Just not the quantity that maybe there was once. But, I mean, great players. So I see a bunch of teams recruiting their tails off, working real hard, and there's no doubt in my mind that a good chunk of the Big Ten teams can compete in any conference in America.
Urban, how do you feel about your time at Florida? I know a lot's been said and written about it.
I feel fantastic. And it's the one thing is I learned probably about 5 years ago, focus on what you can control. We had a great run down there. I love Florida. I'm still very close. And sometimes you'll hear, one or two people with a pen in their hand start saying some things, and I don't understand. So we had a great time there, won a bunch of games, have a bunch of great friends. And for whatever circumstances, I decided to step away for a while. And that while was maybe not as long as a lot of people, I guess, wanted. So once again, I don't know. I had a great time there. We'll always be a Gator. We'll always pull for the Gators, and hope they have a great year.
Speaking of great years, Coach, Braxton Miller.
Great year.
How's he coming along?
He's full speed. He's a guy that we're going to have to manage a little bit during the first 2 weeks of training camp just because of the volume, not because of the health, but the volume on the shoulder. He did not participate in spring practice, but he's doing great, and his attitude. And we've taken a lot of time to work on the two areas where probably he's the weakest, and that's just the leadership vocal part of being a quarterback. And the second is the overall knowledge of defense, of keeping his eyes in the secondary. And that's typical of young quarterbacks, which Braxton really was a young quarterback. He played as a true freshman when he wasn't really ready, made steady improvement all the way through.
Urban, you mentioned earlier about the time you took away. What did you learn from that? Like, how do you guys go so hard as coaches and, 14, 15, 16-hour days. You don't see your family very much. What did you learn from that experience about balancing your life?
Quite a bit. You reach a place sometimes you don't want to really go just with the health issues. And then, my two girls were playing college sports, and I stepped away and really had a great year. Spent a lot of time with guys like John Gruden. Another guy I have great admiration for is Bob Stoops, who he forces that time. And I've found myself doing that more than I ever have, just forcing that time to, that can wait. Or delegation is something that I wasn't real good at, and I'm not great at it now, but I'm a little better.
Urban Meyer joining us here, Ohio State. College football playoff. I mean, it's not a perfect system, but it's better, one would assume, yes? No?
I think that's to be determined. I think it's great. I think it's a great conversation. The fans wanted it. There's one area that I brought it up at the Big Ten meetings that, to the life of me, I can't understand why it hasn't been discussed. But I can promise you that my children will be going on the bowl trips, so will our other coaches. But what about the families of the players? And there's, when I've actually visited with our players about this, and I know our players and their families very well, but you have a nice run, which some team's going to have a great run. You have to go to a championship game. You have to go to a bowl game. You have to go to the national championship game. Conservatively, that's $20,000 cash, or it's got to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so that just, once again, opens the floodgates for someone making a wrong decision about taking money from someone. So that's real. And I can promise you the conference office, everybody and their families are going. I can promise the assistant athletic director is going. Our interns are going. But what about Braxton Miller's family? What about our backup right tackle, his family? And that's when you start hearing about the student-athlete welfare. which there's not a person with any common sense that would say that's not right. I mean, of course it's right. Let's do it then. And let's have someone in those meetings and say what the first thing. Quit worrying about who's going to be the title sponsor and all that. Let's talk about the people out there that practice. They're about ready. Our kids are about ready to go to training camp. It's going to be hot. It's going to be nasty. Coach Edwards has been that for most of his life. How reward these guys? But reward them the right way. Let's go, families. Let's go pack your stuff. We're going to watch your son play a championship game.
Question I have for you, Coach, and you already made light of it, the student athlete, the compensation. The question is this: are the coaches involved in maybe having some opinions about this?
I've never really been asked, other than the media every once in a while asks me. It's never really we have Big Ten meetings and the AFCA. I do think they do an admirable job of trying to balance all this, but no, we get we'll get a conversation piece, like I said, at the coaches' meetings and all that, and to the person, I think everybody feels like we need to just make sure. I'm not sure we all believe in that whole conversation about giving shoe contracts, and because you're going to change a college model then.
Yes.
But to the welfare of student athlete, that's 100% that people want to look after.
Urban Meyer joining us here. Mike and Mike, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, Herm Edwards, George Sedano in for the guys. We got some people that tweeted some questions for you, some Ohio State fans. They want to know. Here's one, comes from Lucas, wants to know, what's the plan at running back now that Hyde is gone?
Well, lost arguably the best running back in America last year, second-round pick with the Niners, Carlos Hyde, and a guy named Ezekiel Elliott right now is probably he's certainly not the starter yet, but his performance on and off the field, the way he handles himself, he'll probably get the first rep when we start practice on Monday. This guy named Curtis Samuel, kid out of Brooklyn, New York, true freshman, came in this spring, has really stole my heart. Does everything right, a gifted athlete, kind of a freak athlete. And then we have some other, you have Bronte Dunn, Warren Ball, and Rod Smith behind them that need to elevate their play. So we have some depth, but those are the names.
New York.
Brooklyn, New York, Erasmus High School. Darnest thing.
That is very unusual.
Great coach. Danny Landsberg does a heck of a job there. He told me this is what we have. It's not the greatest football. It's getting better. He shows up in our camp, and, this kid's a stud.
Wow.
I feel like I have to ask you the obligatory Tim Tebow question while you're here. I know you answered one recently at the Big Ten
headline.
Media Day, right? No, I'm just your thoughts on why it hasn't worked out for him at the next level.
Oh, I don't. I just talked to him the other day, and I just when you're with a kid, probably 10 hours a day, he's the hardest working athlete I've ever been around, and one of the top two toughest athletes I've ever been around, and the highest character, probably human being I've ever been around. So. And he's a winner. He's won at every level. He won in the NFL when it was his team. So everybody's got opinions. The good thing I see in the National Football League now, and I don't study it. I do study it, and I went to the Eagles for a couple of days. I'm seeing the non-traditional starting to show up a little bit, which I think you look at college football. I've had guys that defend in the NFL, defensive coaches, and there was a time where pretty much everybody ran the same offense in the NFL. You get to college, you're going wishbone spread. Empty, Mike Leach you just have all these different exciting offenses you have to defend. So it remains to be seen if it will stay in the NFL, but I know one thing that's there.
I know that you obviously went back to coaching. You've had a lot of success now at Ohio State and still building. You missed this place at all yet or no?
Sure. I miss the people.
Just hanging out with Herm?
I miss Herm.
You don't have to worry about game plan and just got to sit back and relax.
You know who really misses it? My wife. I saw an article or something where she said that wasn't easy. The travel is a pain in the rear, but the people and you know what? I found a small airport not too far from here, though.
Yeah.
10 minutes away.
Really?
Instead of you have to fly an hour, hard.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't found that.
Oh, Coach. Well,
When Herm's got the long trip.
I got the long trip, Coach. From the West Coast, it's almost a whole day to get here. Yeah.
You talking to LeBron yet to help you recruit or no?
We texted back and forth. He's a Buckeye. He is the classiest, big-time athlete I've ever been around. He's extremely articulate. I don't know, I'm sure you guys know him a little bit, but he walks in a room, he's a CEO. That's not some, I know exactly where he's from. I know the school he's from. And I just think what an incredible role model for, I hear people criticize LeBron James. And I get all what team and all that, but he lives life right. He's a model citizen. I love LeBron James, and he's good. I want my son to be around LeBron James.
Urban Meyer, Ohio State, open up against Navy Saturday, August 30th, and on Saturday, September 6th, in prime time at home against Virginia Tech, 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Urban, good to have you, Stat. Thanks for stopping by.
Great to see you guys.
Good to see you, good coach. You look well.
Thanks, man.
Urban Meyer with us here on Mike and Mike. Coming up next, we got one more round of calls and tweets for Herm. Hashtag Hello Herm on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, and hit us up, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. It's Mike and Mike, ESPN Radio.